So that time Ben Shapiro looked at WAP, huh? Yeah, that was pretty cringy. Well, I'm not going to talk about what a lot of people have talked about, which is just how cringy it was that he kind of brought his wife into it. But I am going to talk about a few moments that stuck out to me that I've gotten from the Genius video that has been made because the original video has been taken down.
And she looked at the lyrics herself. And after being kind of appalled by them, obviously, there are a few sort of giveaways here. So first of all, a bucket and a mop for this wet ass P word. So first of all, she had to clarify whether wet ass P word was a description of the P word or whether one of the clinical symptoms here was also diarrhea.
First of all, why are you so disgusted by the words wet ass pussy? Like, I feel like that's what this comes down to. I mean, we talk about Ben Shapiro as this like logical guy, but everything he talks about just comes down to his just being sort of grossed out in kind of a 12-year-old boy memes about roast beef sort of way.
Pay my tuition just to kiss me on this wet ass P word. This is what feminists fought for. This is what the feminist movement was all about. It's not really about, women being treated as independent, full, rounded human beings. It's about wet ass P word. And if you say anything differently, it's because you're a misogynist, you see.
So I brought out this particular clip because he's so incensed that someone would like this sort of transactional relationship that people have. But I think it's necessitated by a lack of access to education. If a woman is in this transactional relationship, it's probably not much of a choice on her part. I mean, yeah, like it can be empowering to engage in some form of sex work, and I don't want to talk over sex workers that like say that. But in addition, it's also kind of interesting because he's the man in this song is not paying her tuition to have sex with her, rather to give her pleasure, which I just think is interesting personally.
Put aside the empowerment. I understand how empowering it is for women to sing about the moisture state of their genitals. And I understand that anybody who criticizes this as reductive of female sexuality.
Ben. It's not about the moisture state of anyone's genitals. That's like a very like physical way of putting it. But I think it's about more than that. I mean, I'll tell you, I grew up in a time where there was a lot of shame about women's bodies. I mean, men's bodies, it was a different thing. I mean, we danced to Soldier Boy, Superman that hoe, like it was nothing. But like a woman, like getting your period in class was like the worst thing. It was like worse than farting during an exam. And I think, yeah, like it is kind of empowering to sing about a woman's body for not for a man's pleasure, but for a woman's. Because a lot of times, like, a woman that enjoys sex is called a slut or any other kind of horrible name. And I think Ben just doesn't understand. He kind of lives in a world where there is no shame around women's bodies, in a world where everyone's already liberated. But and maybe they are in like Massachusetts, but I grew up in Maryland in a time where I was sent to the principal's office for showing too much skin. Just let's cover up the boobs, just like showing this much before I was even fully developed because it would be too distracting. So I think what Ben doesn't understand is that there is a lot of shame that we grew up with, and I think it is he's so incensed by the idea that it could be empowering to sing about a woman's body, but there's a reason why it is. And I think people have pointed out in think pieces, but I kind of had to point it out myself, just sort of to prove something to myself in a way.
And or of putting out images of females as over-sexualized in a way that is negative, that puts negative images in men and drives negative images toward women for men, treating them as sex objects. I understand that stuff is out of bounds, right? I mean, if we mention any of that stuff, it's because we're misogynists. I'm a sexist for saying that women are more than just, their wet-ass P words.
But Ben, have you at any time said that women are more than their wet-ass P words during this tirade? You haven't. You've said that women can't have, now I'm saying it too, wet ass P words. Um, because if they do, they must have some kind of disease. You're buying into the system that these women are defying in the first place. I think the cringiest thing about this is not that he kind of made his wife admit that she doesn't have she doesn't get wet, but that he buys into the system of shame and of, honestly, like, of some form of oppression that this song kind of set out to defeat in the first place. And that's essentially the point I'm making, is that Ben Shapiro is the reason why this song was made. So Ben Shapiro, if you don't want any more songs like this to be made, then just stop being yourself.